What we need is not more medications, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. This is Exposé coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, every Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook simultaneously. And I'm your regular host, Akinyemi. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. Welcome once again to Exposé, every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at 8 p.m. Nigerian time. I'm your regular host, Akinyemi, and this has been brought to you by the Shepherd's Flock International Church. We've been dealing with this series on the causes of disease, looking at it from the natural standpoint or the natural health standpoint. We have looked at 7 factors, and we've been dealing with the first 4. I created an acronym for that. DATIISS, the cause of disease. DATIISS, the cause of disease. And D stands for deficiency. A stands for abuse. T stands for toxicity. I stands for injury. We have looked at those 4 so far. Now we have 3 more left in that acronym. That is ISS. So I, for today, stands for infections. And we're going to be looking at that. Infections or infestations as possible causes of disease. Infections or infestations, or infections and infestations. Then the remaining 2 will be sedentary living, lack of exercise, and stress. I hope to just cover that briefly in the next episode, and then we'll be looking at each of them more extensively. I want to do a whole series on exercise and another whole series on stress management. So what I'll just do in this particular series on sedentary living and stress is just to give you an introduction to, so that we can complete this series hopefully in the next 2 episodes. That's today and the next episode. All right. So let's start with I today, infections and infestations. So what's the difference between the 2? Usually when people are infected with microorganisms, disease-causing microorganisms, that's called an infection. It could be viral infection, it could be bacterial infection, it could be fungal infection or yeast infection. But an infestation is when we are infested with maybe parasites. Okay, if people have pinworms or roundworms, ascaris, or tapeworm, okay, those are infestations. You are infested with parasites. But when you are infected with microorganisms, that's an infection. All right, so many people have developed symptoms, disease symptoms, and have fallen sick because they were either infected or they were infested. That's why it's important to do regular, deworming or parasite cleanse from our systems in order to promote health. Maybe I should start with the infestation part of it before I come to the infection part of it. Okay? Children in particular, when they are young, you put them on the floor, they pick about anything, and the first place it goes to is their mouth. They just take it straight to their mouth. So that way they pick the eggs of worms, particularly ascaris, the roundworm that children are usually infected with. Adults can also be infested with it, by the way. So they pick the eggs go into their digestive tract and hatches there and begins to produce worms. And those worms will in turn begin to lay eggs. Now, those eggs can be seen in the poo-poo of that child. You may not be able to see it physically, but when you do a stool test, you collect the poo-poo of that child, you take it to a lab, and they analyze it. They can see the eggs of the worms in there. So you need to deworm your children. Even as an adult, you can deworm. Some people use pharmaceutical deworming products. There's no problem about that. But there are also natural products that you can use to deworm you can use things like black walnut hulls. The hulls of black walnut is available as supplements, over-the-counter supplements that you can obtain from any health store, or you can ask your natural health provider, your naturopathic doctor, or whoever is trained in that regard to recommend for you black walnut hulls. It comes in capsules, it comes in the form of tinctures, in liquids, liquid extracts, and it can help to remove all these parasites from your system. There are different other protocols for parasite cleanse that can help to remove parasites. Because if you don't remove those parasites, you are infested with them, you don't deworm, you don't get rid of those parasites, you don't clean them out of your system, they share in the nutrients from your food, okay? As you eat and digest the food, they suck the nutrients and they deprive you of essential nutrients. So you just see yourself, you are eating and yet you are growing leaner. You are eating and yet you are malnourished because the worms are eating up all the nutrients from your digested food. They are not allowing your body to absorb them, and that can create deficiency situations, and you already understand the role that deficiency plays in disease causation and disease progression and preventing disease reversal. So deworm from time to time. Do parasite cleanse from time to time, and that will be part of your strategy for maintaining wellness. But I want to really emphasize on infections today, infections. So right now, we're going to be talking about infections, which has to do with fungal infections or yeast infections, bacterial infections, and viral infections, and what to do to beat those infections or to prevent those infections, or if you're infected, how to address them. Don't go away. I'll be back very shortly. I believe you've been having a terrific time with me on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. We have great resources that will bless your life available to you on healthy living and many other life subjects. We have various platforms where you can obtain materials for your blessing. You can obtain some of our work, our books, particularly on Amazon.com. How to Regain and Retain Your Health is a book title that I highly recommend. It's available in digital format, Kindle edition, as well as in printed version. We also have juices and smoothies for healing, health, and pleasure. You can also find these items at another website, familabooks.com, F-A-M-I-L-A books.com. And for those of you who are in Nigeria, you can reach us at the Shepherd Store, 18 Shogunle Street, off Mobolaji Bank Anthony Way, behind SFS Place, to get our materials. We have over 600 recorded audio CDs, DVDs, VCDs, and MP3s on various subjects. All these things that I teach on Exposé are already available in their complete format. How to reverse hypertension naturally, how to reverse diabetes naturally, how to reverse arthritis naturally, and many other wonderful titles. I encourage you to visit this website, Amazon.com, familabooks.com, or TSF bookstores in Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria, and you will be blessed reading those materials and sharing them with your friends and family. Thank you once again. God bless you. Welcome back. This is Exposé, brought to you by the Shepherd's Flock International Church. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education. And the best prescription is knowledge. Before I talk about infections again, let me remind you that in March 2021, we're having our Module 1 of Healthy Living Institute. And I want you to go to our website and register. Join us for a very terrific 4-day session. It's virtual, it's online, it's going to be on Zoom, and you can join us and participate. Register right now. Go to raphainstitute.org, RAPHA institute.org, and register for Module 1 and join us. It's going to be terrific. Okay, we're talking about infections and infestations as possible contributors or causes of disease. We have dealt with infestations with parasites. Now I want to talk about infections with microorganisms, what medical people call pathogens or disease-causing agents. Fungal infection, viral infection, and bacterial infection. Now let me start with bacterial infection. Typically when people have bacterial infections, they can have it in any part of the body, but usually in the upper respiratory tract. Most of the time, particularly in children, they get infections and then it comes with a cough, it comes with irritations, it comes with sore throat, it comes with pain, it comes with discomforts of different kinds. Okay, now when people have bacterial infections, sometimes when they spit or when they clear their throat of phlegm, when they cough out phlegm, it's yellowish in color. Typically, when it is bacterial infection, you see it in that color form. All right, and there are things you can do to address bacterial infection in the upper respiratory tract. It can also happen in the UTI, urinary tracts infection. They are called UTI, urinary tract infections. It can happen in the bladder. It can happen in the genitals. It can even migrate upwards into the kidneys. Okay, those are infections. Of course, any part of the body can be infected. Even the scalp can be infected, the skin can be infected, the eyes can be infected, the nails, the fingernails can be infected. All kinds of different infectious agents. Now, some of those infections that are highly transmissible, there are those that are not necessarily transmissible. In other words, somebody can have maybe a fungal infection on their nail or on their toes, and you can sleep on the same bed with the person and you won't catch that infection. But in highly transmissible infections, if one person is infected, other people around that person can catch that same infection. Okay, that's why we have communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. Most of the time, infections are communicable. It can be transmitted from person to person. But bacterial infections, particularly in the UTI, in the urinary tract, can be addressed with simple things like cranberry. When you take cranberry, not the diluted cranberry juice that has no therapeutic effect, but when you take cranberry fruit itself or you take the concentrated capsules of cranberry extract, that helps with bacterial infections. Things like garlic also help a lot with bacterial infections. Okay, so some other persons may want to take antibiotics to address bacterial infections. Antibiotics, when they are particularly targeted at specific infections, E. coli, H. pylori, Salmonella, and Staphylococcus, and different kinds of bacterial infections, they work well. But the bad thing about antibiotics is that when the antibiotics kills the bad bacteria, it also kills the friendly bacteria in your system. So you are killing the bad guys, you are also destroying the good guys. Now, we all have two types of bacteria in our system. We have the disease-causing bacteria, which are the ones that cause infections. And then we have the friendly bacteria. They are called the friendly flora. Friendly flora. They coexist with us in a symbiotic relationship. They feast on our food residue. When you digest your food and the fiber and the waste product goes into your colon, then they feast on it. And in the process of feasting on your waste product, they also generate their own waste products. But what is waste product to them is beneficial to us. What is waste product from us is beneficial to them. So I eat my food, I cannot digest the fiber goes down into the colon. It's waste product for me, but it is food for the friendly bacteria. Then the friendly bacteria will feast on my own waste product and generate their own waste products, vitamin B12, vitamin K2, which is their own waste product. But that is vitamin for me, beneficial for me. So it is a symbiotic relationship. I benefit them, they benefit me. There are bacteria in our system that are called friendly bacteria. They help to improve our digestive health. They help to improve our nutrition by giving us vitamins that are very critical to our health, while also helping waste products to move along by breaking it down further. All right, so that class of bacteria are called friendly flora, and they are useful. So when you take an antibiotic, it will destroy those bacteria as well. So what then happens, there is now a vacuum in your system that needs to be filled. And if you don't intentionally bring in friendly bacteria, They are called probiotics. They are available in liquid form. They are available in capsules. They are available in tablets. You can get them from health food stores and take them. Or you can take fermented food. Inside your fermented food, like in your yogurt, in your kefir, in your even fermented corn, pap, but in the raw form, not when it has been cooked. In the raw form, when you have your fermented corn blended and sieved, and you have water on top of it, and the water has been there for days, and very sour water. You just scoop a cup of that water. Where I come from, we call it omidum, all right? You just drink that water on top of that raw ogi. That is loaded with friendly bacteria. Or when you ferment your coconut milk, ferment your almond milk, ferment your goat milk, and you create yogurt out of it, and you eat it as a parfait by adding some fresh fruits, some grapes and berries into your fermented milk. That's called parfait. Now, you can enjoy a lot of friendly bacteria. Or you can just buy your probiotics in liquid form or in capsules or in tablets and replace the friendly bacteria that your antibiotic has wiped out. So I tell people, whenever you take a course of antibiotics, you need to take probiotics. Once you finish the course of antibiotics, start taking probiotics so that you can quickly populate the vacant locations with friendly bacteria. Because if you don't, the bad bacteria will find their way uninvited into your system. I mean, we all, sometimes without realizing it, inoculate ourselves with bad bacteria. Maybe you see I'm laying my hands on the table, I may have picked up some bacteria I can't see with my naked eyes, and then sometimes some of us will put our nails in our mouth and we will bite. You have already introduced that bacteria, it finds its way. Sometimes you put your hand in your nostrils and you have injected yourself with bacteria and they go inside. Sometimes you pick a piece of fruit, maybe you didn't clean it properly and you ate it and the bacteria is already on that fruit, it goes inside. If you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach to kill off those bacteria, what happens is that they take root in your system, and before you know it, the bad guys will take over the territory, and then you come down with an infection again. So if you have been taking antibiotics, or anytime you take a pharmaceutical antibiotic, make sure you also take probiotics after you finish the course of antibiotics. Do not take it at exactly the time you are taking the antibiotic. Finish your antibiotic 5 days or 7 days, as the case may be, or 10 days, and then resume the course of your probiotics to quickly bring back the friendly and the good guys into that space before the bad guys come to take over. So that's as far as bacterial infections and probiotics, antibiotics are concerned. Okay, then when it is fungal infection or viral infection, antibiotics normally don't work against fungi, against viruses. But sometimes when people have viral infections, they give them antiviral agents and still give them antibiotics because sometimes the viruses actually are hosted inside bacteria. So you are dealing with not just the virus, you're also dealing with the bacteria that is playing host to the virus. Okay, that's why they normally combine antibiotics with antiviral agents. But the antibiotic does not affect the virus. It only affects the bacteria. So when people get infection, what happens is that your immune system identifies the foreign agent, the bacterium, the fungus, or the virus that has come into your body, and your immune system begins to launch an attack against that infectious agent. If your immune system is intact and strong, you are able to deal with the infection, and you don't even realize that you've had an infection that your body has beaten hands down. Okay? But if your immunity is weak, then you have a problem. When you get infected, then you can get sick, and it can lead to something else, particularly if that type of infection is the one that interferes with major processes in your body, like your respiratory system, for example. Now, don't go away. I'll be back to take that even further. I believe you've been having a terrific time with me on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. We have great resources that will bless your life available to you on healthy living and many other life subjects. We have various platforms where you can obtain materials for your blessing. You can obtain some of our work, our books, particularly on Amazon.com. How to Regain and Retain Your Health is a book title that I highly recommend. It's available in digital format, Kindle edition, as well as in printed version. We also have juices and smoothies for healing, health, and pleasure. You can also find these items at another website, familabooks.com, F-A-M-I-L-A books.com. And for those of you who are in Nigeria, you can reach us at the Shepherd Store, 18 Shogunle Street, off Mobolaji Bankantoni Way, behind SFS Place, to get our materials. We have over 600 recorded audio CDs, DVDs, VCDs, and MP3s on various subjects. All these things that I teach on Exposé are already available in their complete format: how to reverse hypertension naturally, how to reverse diabetes naturally, how to reverse arthritis naturally, and many other wonderful titles. I encourage you to visit this website, amazon.com, familabooks.com, or TSF bookstores in Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria, and you will be blessed reading those materials and sharing them with your friends and family. Thank you once again. God bless you. Welcome back to Exposé, brought to you by the Shepherd's Flock International Church. And I'm your regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget that the best prescription is knowledge. What we need is not more medication, but more education. And that's why it's our joy to bring to you the information that will bring your transformation. For to be informed is to be transformed, and to be uninformed is to be deformed. We're talking about DATIISS, 7 things in the natural health community recognized as possible causes of diseases: deficiencies, abuses, toxicity, injury, infections, sedentary living, and stress. We have dealt with the first 4. We are on number 5 today, infections. We have talked about infestations, when one gets infested with parasites. And now we're talking about infections. I've addressed bacterial infections. Now I want to talk about viral infections and fungal infections. Let me start with viral infections. Now, viral infections are usually very unique in their progression. Sometimes every virus, the type of virus that a person is infected with, determines the cause of that disease. And each virus has its own unique character. Okay? Most viruses usually have a cycle that they go through. Okay? They are self-limiting. What do I mean by that? In other words, some of them will infect a host, they infect a person, and then they will run through a 14-day cycle or a 21-day cycle. If the immune system of that person is able to withstand them, then they die out, and that person is free. Then that person develops an antibody against that particular virus, such that in the future, when that person comes in contact with that same type of virus, the immune system already knows how to deal with that virus. That virus has helped the individual to understand how to deal with that infection in the future. In other words, that person has developed what we call natural immunity. Now, if you take the Ebola virus, it normally runs through a 21-day cycle, self-limiting. If the person can stand without collapsing for those 21 days, that's it. The person has won the battle. If you take the COVID-19 virus, which is the current one in the world today, it runs through an approximate 10 to 14-day cycle. If your immune system can withstand it for that period, you develop natural immunity against that virus. And so when next you come in contact with that virus, it doesn't, bring you down. It doesn't give you symptoms like maybe the first time you encountered it. In fact, some people, the first time they encounter the COVID-19 virus, don't even develop any symptoms. They are called asymptomatic. Now, many people in our population may have already contracted the COVID-19 virus, and they have beaten it without even realizing it. That's why one of the things I expect our government agencies to be doing around the world is to start testing people for antibodies for COVID-19. Now, I have never tested positive for COVID-19. I don't know whether I have contracted it and I have overcome it. I don't know, because I never developed those symptoms associated with COVID-19 infection or SARS-CoV-2 infection. Okay? But it's possible, because you see, it's possible that I may have contracted the COVID-19 infection. I may have overcome it. I don't know, because I never tested and I never developed symptoms, at least as of today, by the grace of God. Now, but then, because of my line of work, I would call myself a frontline worker, because I'm a nutritional consultant and I deal with sick people on a weekly basis. I mean, right through from when the pandemic was declared up until this moment, I see scores and scores of people every week who are sick, who come to me for prayers, for counseling, for nutritional advice, and for all of those attention. And I come in contact with all kinds of sick people. So I don't know. It's possible I may have been exposed, but then I never came down with a disease. But then I expect that there should be a lab I can go to where they will take my blood sample and check for the COVID-19 antibodies to see whether I have developed that immunity. I expect our government agencies to be doing that for all of us. I was reading a post sometimes recently where on social media where somebody said that he's involved with a small group, an NGO, that went to a certain community in this country to take blood samples of residents in that community and test them for antibodies, COVID-19 antibody tests. And they found that approximately 70 to 80% of them already have the antibodies. Meanwhile, they never tested positive at any time. They never came down with sickness at any time. So they may have been infected and overcome the disease without realizing it. Now they are naturally immune. Now, for me, personally, from my perspective, and you don't have to agree with me, but from my perspective, I don't think such people still require any vaccination, even though those who are pushing for vaccines for everybody are saying that even those who have recovered still need to take the vaccine. What I want us to establish, what I expect our scientists and government agents to establish is take the blood sample of those who have been vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine, any one of them, take their blood sample, and take the blood sample of somebody who has tested positive for COVID-19 and has recovered. Take the blood sample of both of them and check for the antibodies in their blood and see which one has superior quality antibody between the two, to know whether this one that has recovered still needs to be vaccinated or not. But they have not done all of that. They are just pushing whether you have been infected and recovered or not, just go get the vaccine. I disagree with that notion. I believe that when people get viral infections and their immune system has been able to beat it hands down, they have developed natural immunity to some extent, particularly for certain viruses, not all viruses, okay? And their natural immunity needs to be measured and determined against the induced immunity that comes from a vaccine, and compare and do a thorough scientific analysis before we jump to conclusions. The idea of just coming to the market for economic gains and pushing hook, line, and sinker, let everybody swallow it, it's unscientific, it's unprofessional, it's irresponsibility, as far as I'm concerned. If we will do antibody checks for everybody or do sampling all over the place and determine the level of herd immunity that we have naturally acquired or reached, then that will determine if we find a remedy that is going to be helpful, whether it be vaccine or no vaccine, we will know those that need it and those who don't need it anymore. So that we don't waste money to do things that we can avoid and spend that money more judiciously on other things that will be more beneficial for the whole population. That's my personal opinion, okay, and I'm entitled to it. So that's as far as viral infection is concerned. Another thing about viral infection is that each virus appears to deplete certain minerals in the body. For example, Ebola depletes vitamin C in the body because the body uses vitamin C to fight it. So vitamin C level goes down. Then HIV depletes selenium mineral in the body because the body uses selenium as an antioxidant to fight it. And then COVID-19 depletes the amount of zinc in the body because the body uses zinc essentially to fight it. So it's important for us to understand which particular mineral is particularly useful for each viral infection. But most viral infections will benefit from vitamin C supplementation, zinc supplementation, vitamin D3 supplementation, and maybe some form of antioxidants like glutathione and selenium or S-adenosyl methionine, okay? So it's important for us to understand that. Then when it comes to fungal or yeast infection, however, as I begin to round up about infections being causes of disease, One thing I want us to understand is that yeast infection could be very stubborn. So when you're dealing with yeast infection, you need to go for the long haul, you need to be patient, and you need to be consistent. Because yeast could be stubborn. It's not something you treat for 5 days or 7 days or 10 days like bacterial infection. It could be for months, probably 3 months, 6 months, but then it will clear. And one thing you must also understand about yeast infection is that yeast usually feasts on sugar. So anybody who has a yeast infection should go away from sugar and go away from alcoholic beverages, go away from soft drinks, go away from even very sweet fruits, because the sugar in them will make the yeast to multiply rapidly. So you starve them out by starving them of sugar. A ketogenic diet will be very helpful when a person has a fungal or yeast infection. Of course, there are many things that help with yeast cleanse. You can get my book, How to Regain and Retain Your Health, available on Amazon.com, FamilyBooks.com, or Kada Books. And in one chapter there, I discussed the remedy for yeast infections. Go there and find out and deploy it, and it shall be well with you. Again, don't forget that we are having our Module 1 Healthy Living Institute class online, virtual. Go to rafainstitute.org, register today. Don't waste time. Join us for this wonderful first edition in 2021. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on on Instagram, and like us on Facebook. And press the notification bell on your YouTube, on our YouTube channel, so that you can get notified whenever we come online. Help us to also share this video and share this presentation, this streaming, with your friends and colleagues. Let them watch our series. Let them subscribe, so that we can build a community of wellness, of healing, of health, and get informed. This is more or less like an informal school. You get informed, and you can transmit information to those you love, and all of us benefit from it. It's been my pleasure and my joy to be your host on Exposé today, brought to you by the Shepherd's Flock International Church. I am Tony Akinyemi. Do have a very terrific evening. God bless you. What we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. This is Exposé, coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, every Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook simultaneously. And I'm your regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge.